I'm attempting to rewire this rear wiper and the hard top into the Jeep that doesn't have any of that wiring, and it starts off being reasonably easy. I've got the connector for the hood, and I've started putting in a wiring loom at this end, and I've got it nicely connected to ground to the chassis, so I only have the hot wires running this way along, and that doesn't look too bad to start with. And then I go and open the can of worms, because I've got to get this cabling into switches like that switch there, put it somewhere on the dash, dig into here somewhere and find the power for the lights, so that when I turn the dash lights on, the switch lights up. I've got to dig into this and add additional fuses, or hook into the existing fuses, so that the wiring loom is nice and clean, and reroute all those wires through to here. And what I think I'm going to do is create this is the old cigarette lighter, and since I don't smoke I don't need it, so I can put a plate in here and add additional switches. And while I'm at it, I'm going to rewire all this loose winch wiring to put the switch on here for the winch, and then this will also sit next to it, along with the demister for the rear. It's going to be sitting there, and I've got to find the ground spot up here for the ground wiring inside the dash. Will probably be that point there. I've pulled out the internal fuse box. This red wire is a hot wire, always on, so I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. This is a 20 amp feed from well, designed for the fog lamps, but the fog lamps aren't in there, and the people before me had bodged a connection in with a new seat that has electrics and a seat heater, and put a relay onto that, but they welded it to the top of the fuse. So what I've done is I've found that wire and put it on properly at the back. And now what I'm going to do is I'll just seal that loom back up again, so it doesn't pull on the device. And this will be the feed I have for the rear wiper. Now my Jeep is kind of like a Mini on fat tyres. There's not much space, so I had to figure out where to put the switches, and I decided, because I don't smoke, of cutting a hole in the cigarette tray, or the cigarette tray that you pull out, and it worked. So I've got this faceplate here, and I just needed to make it a little bit wider to fit all the switches. So it worked once. I'll just trim it again, and oops, it's broken. I'm still going to try it, but now I'm going to try an old workshop trick. Go to the supermarket, get some baking soda and some super glue, and rejoin that with this. Weld it together with super glue and, believe it or not, baking soda. I'll let you know how it goes. And the other reason it didn't work is I hadn't been drinking one of these. So now we're cooking. This was broken. A little bit of baking soda, super glue, mix it together. Kind of the poor man's fiberglass, but it actually works quite well with plastic. And then of course extract of yeast. Then I'll be able to bolt that down and mount that on the dash. I'm getting to the end point of the wiring for the top. I've got the wiring loom running into the front, and I've hacked into the fuse box and got this wiring across here, which I'm going to wrap up shortly. And then I've got this cluster. I'm taking the chance to rewire some other pre-owner wiring in there. I'm going to rewire it through the fuse box instead of the other consumer fuses that are there. I do not recommend you try and use the cigarette tray. It turns out this plastic is very brittle. It's more like a powder than a plastic. I assume that's because it needs to handle heat. And then I've got the switches that I'm wiring in, and 7 incoming wires that I've had to run in for the lights, for the ground, for the voltage, and for all the signals. And then I'm also putting the winch in and out on here as well, so it'll be on the dash a little bit nicer. The wiring job is done. Got the glove box in. I've got these switches right here. You can't really see them, but if I turn the lights on, you can see where they are. And I never want to have to go in there again. It's a blimmin' nightmare with this breaking, and then the wires. In fact, it's a barely, shall we say, it's more than just a push fit. It's a push fit. But yep, I've got the rear demister, the wipers, and the wiring for the water bottle there, and then I've got the winch there. The good thing about that is I've got a connector down here that if there's a problem I can just unplug it and plug in this remote. And maybe the one what I am going to do is put a isolator, electronically switched isolator for the winch, so that the heavy power to the winch is turned off when we don't need it. And I've got my radio here and the mic, which can go either here or there, so I reckon I'm pretty well set up at the moment. With that in mind, you can see the cabling through there. I've got to finish that out to the back once I get a water bottle for the rear, which I'm going to put at the rear. I'll have the washer as well as the wiper. So it's only time to wave goodbye.